So in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about how to break free from your old money paradigm. And we all have a paradigm around money in which we operate from. And what do I mean by this fancy word paradigm? You might have heard about it. It's quite loosely used in the self-development space. So paradigm simply means the way you look at something. There is a physics of things which, talks about what actually is. And then there is our view, how we look at that situation. For example, a girl might be extremely beautiful to one person and the other person might not think she's, anything, any big deal. And that right there is a paradigm, is how you look at a situation. And similarly, certain ethnicities might be considered by one person as extraordinarily attractive, and the same girl from the same ethnicity by another person would be like, this is an average girl. And the other person might think it's out of that person's league and she's like a goddess, and he would be willing to give half of the money that he has just to be with her, right? So the point that I'm making is that the paradigm that we come from, or the view that we have about a situation, governs our behavior, actions, and results around that area. So if you don't have results in a certain area, it makes sense for you to revisit your paradigm and kind of decode what the paradigm is. And if you alter that paradigm, if you change the way you look at things, suddenly the result shifts, because you got to the source of the problem, you got to the source of the situation. And that's what education is. Real education, not the school and college education, but real education. That's what it does, is that it changes our view of a certain situation. We had this fixed way of looking at things, and suddenly there was a shift. Somebody who had experience shares something, and our view of that completely shifts, and suddenly our behavior and how we deal with that situation alters, and all of a sudden we have a completely different result. So if I have to look at an example in the context of money, and we have paradigms in each and every single area of our lives. We are operating from this existing belief, existing view of that situation. For example, I used to think $5,000 to $10,000 was a lot of money at one point. And then my paradigm evolved and I started to think that $1 million is the big deal, right? And after I went to Dan Penya's Castle seminar, my whole relationship to money completely shifted, and my definitions of what was small money and big money completely changed. And it was a definition that none of my environment agreed to. And I'm also going to talk about how these paradigms are formed and how much they rule you. But let's look at it a little bit deeply. So I was doing a presentation with a bank asking for around $10 million to finance a transaction that was brought to me by another mentee. And, we both were working on this deal, and I went to the bank looking for financing. And the deal size itself was extremely outside my comfort zone. I had never even seen anything of that size, especially a company. And I had not asked even for, $10,000, $20,000 on one phone call. And here I was asking for $10 million, which completely baffled my mind at the time, because this was way outside my comfort zone. And I spoke to these group of bankers, and these guys are like, this is a small ticket. And I was like, hold on a second. If I go back in my environment, and if I even say that I was asking for a couple of $100,000, they're going to say, you're out of your mind. And here, I'm asking for 10 million, and you are telling me that this is a small ticket? And obviously I didn't say that. I was thinking in my mind. And I was like, okay, it's a small ticket. So what would be your starting point? And he said, if you want to deal with our department, and there were 3-4 bankers, high profile bankers. If you want to deal with our department, then we start with 50 million minimum ticket. And I was like, why is that? And he said, because the bigger the transaction, the bigger the fees. And we typically advise our clients on transactions, how to structure it. And we charge fees for all of that. And all of that is linked to the ticket size. And we deal with big ticket, it's just a question of an extra zero. And, the work is typically very similar. Whether it's a very big deal or a small deal, typically takes the same amount of time. So we prefer big deals. So I was like, that makes perfect sense to me. And so I left and I started to contemplate what is big and what is small. Because the definitions that were programmed in my head, these guys are not operating from that definition. And I almost cannot even believe that I'm doing this. And I was completely shocked, to tell you the truth. And I came on the bed and I was just scratching my head like, how is this possible? I just got on a phone call with these guys and got off. And how was I able to do this? It wasn't even that hard. And it didn't make any sense at all in my mind. Because I grew up watching my mom working 2 months, working the whole month, non-stop, no weekends, to collect $1,500 at the end of the month. So from that, and that was my limit, kind of a monthly ceiling that I had seen. I had not seen, anybody in the legitimate world making more than that. And I was like, this is insane. I was asking for an amount which was ridiculous. And these guys are saying, this is a small ticket, up your game. So in one environment, if I even talk about 10 million, they say you're out of your mind. In another environment, they say this is a small ticket. And I have these two environments proposing two different paradigms, and my mind is just spinning. Because 25 years of my life, I was told this. And suddenly, over a couple of months, I discover there is this. It's kind of like you rediscover UFOs or something. And this reality starts challenging this reality. And what I was going through was this crazy dilemma as to what is real. I was questioning what is real. And I was questioning what is possible. I had never questioned what was possible for me. Yes, in theory, anything is possible, right? We know that in theory, anything is possible. But in practice, for myself, for yourself, you discover something, you discover a new possibility and just blows your mind. And you can't fathom, and it challenges your whole life. You will start questioning, and you start questioning your teachers, your parents, your friends, your relatives, and you start to think all of these people are on something because they're not in touch with reality, or they're not exposed to reality, and they live in their little bubble and they can't see beyond it. And that's the paradigm. They can't see beyond it. So I had to sit down and literally take a piece of paper and write down everything that I was told about money in my whole life. Right from the point where I was born. And I was born in a third world country, in a basic neighborhood in India. And my mom worked all the time and she made $1,500. And here I was in Dubai, where supercars are just the norm. And I'm dealing with high-profile executives, and I'm negotiating these big deals, and I don't even believe that I'm doing it. So it was something that I was so uncomfortable even operating under, that I didn't understand, anything that was happening, because it was so outside my comfort zone. It was so outside of my paradigm. And the fact that I was even attempting to do this was because I had my paradigm altered, transformed, even before I start attempting it. Because if that paradigm wasn't transformed by me going to the seminar or being exposed to certain financial material, I would not even attempt this. And this is what happened with my brother. He said this is not even possible. So he didn't even attempt it. His whole argument was, why would a high-profile CEO partner up with a young guy? It's not going to happen. But that's the common belief. That's the paradigm. But it did. Within 2 weeks, I had closed a $3.5 billion company CEO to be my business partner. And in a couple of months' time, he signed the papers and it was sealed. And this wasn't possible. And suddenly now it's possible. There's a shift of paradigm here. So I was like, if this was possible all along, and I believed in my head it's not possible, and I never even attempted it because I thought it's not possible. It's kind of like you think, flying is not, you don't attempt to fly, you don't attempt to get up in the morning and attempt to fly, right? You just kind of assume that it's never going to happen. It's laws of physics. And I'm not saying that if you change your paradigm, you'll start flying. Maybe we'll have equipment with which we would be able to do it, a jetpack or something. But I mean, you don't attempt things you don't think are possible, are not possible, right? We don't attempt things that we think are not possible for us. So if you have a paradigm where you think it's not possible, you would not even attempt it. And I started to, as I took action and I started to make this into a reality, and I started to meet people and I started to interview people, I started to discover the reality. I started to look beyond my programming, beyond my conditioning, beyond what was told to me since I was a little kid. And here is what my paradigm was around money. And hear me out. This is what it was. And maybe this is what it was for you. You have to study, these books that we are giving you. This is in school. And if you study this, you will get a grade. And everything in your life is going to be dependent on this grade and how you perform in school. Because based on your grade, you would get a college. Based on your college entrance exam and what your ranking was, you will get a good college. And based on your college, you will get a good job. And very few people get a good job. And then you have to perform at the job. You have to first take an internship, and then you have to perform at the job for decades. And then they incrementally increase your promotion. And then one day, when you're 40, 50, you'll be able to buy yourself a house, a decent car, and that would be success. That's the best case scenario. And that was the paradigm that I had around money. And it wasn't real. And the whole narrative was a few people make it. The class topper, the college topper, these guys are going to make it. And you're not. So for me, the subject of money was linked with the job was linked with the college was linked with academics and grades. All of this was linked together. Guess what? These things have nothing to do with each other. The college toppers from my class are school teachers right now. And I'm negotiating multi-million-dollar deals. The girl in my school, another girl who was a topper, she went to New York University to become a lawyer for post-grad. The firm that she wants to work in, it's a wish, it's a dream, that she wants to work in, and she wants to enter into the bottom of this firm. That firm's senior partner, senior counsel, retired, is my business partner. So her bosses in her dream firms who got retired are my business partners, and I didn't finish college and I didn't even go to law school. What I'm doing is completely outside of the convention. Completely outside. And what a lot of people are doing is completely outside of the system. And why does a paradigm have power? Why is it? And I started to discover, okay, I have these paradigms. Why is it hard to let this go? Why is it hard to let the paradigm go? Why does it have such a gripping power over me, my life, how I think? And this is a box in which we think, right? The paradigm. And I was like, how does this have power over me? Like so much power. And there are two major factors what gives these paradigms power. Number one is authority. Where does the paradigm come from? If they came from authority figures, your parents, school teachers, school principal, somebody successful in your family, relatives that you respect, elder brother, elder sister, those are authority figures in your life. They control your life essentially. And a lot of them use violence, and that's why you give them authority, because they either punish you or they enforce violence. So you have to give them authority. So authority, government is another institution of authority. Religion is another institution of authority. And these are your channels of programming. Anything that has authority will tend to have a very powerful effect on your mind. That's number one. Number two is agreement. If too many people agree on one thing, it starts to look as though that thing is real. But for a long time, most people agreed that Earth was flat. And it's not. So just because a lot of people agree about something doesn't make that thing real. But unfortunately, that's the second factor that gives paradigms power, is that if I am sitting in a room, which I used to, with a bunch of guys, my friends, and I talk to them about making $10 million or raising $10 million, which is what I was looking to do, these guys would start spitting their paradigm about that thing that I just said. And my mind, looking at this, would go like, oh, all of these people agree to this, maybe I should agree also and give that paradigm power. So not only that these paradigms are toxic, they have got authority and they have got common consensus, common agreement. So this paradigm that you need to study, get good grades, go to college, get a good college, and then get as many degrees as you can, then work as an internship, work at a job, and then you will make some money. And don't be greedy, and greed is bad, and all of these things. You go to the school, it's the same bullshit. You come back home, it's the same bullshit. You go to your relatives, it's the same bullshit. You talk to your friends, it's the same bullshit. You go downstairs to play, it's the same bullshit. You go to another country, it's the same bullshit. Because the channels of information, everybody is exposed to the same channels of information. Anything that's taught in schools is regulated by the government. Okay? And all the schools in one region have the same curriculum, same narratives, everything is the same. So you have got mass hypnosis happening where people believe something when it's not even real. Now, if you believe it, it's going to be real for you. You will make it real. You will act from it and you will make it real. Because paradigms, behavior, and actions and results are all consistent. So if you want to find out if your paradigm is healthy or not healthy, or you want to find out if your paradigm is ideal, where you want to make the money you want to make, if you want to find out if your paradigm is appropriate to your goals, look at the result in that area. If you have $2,000 per month, your paradigm is around $2,000 per month. If you make $5 million a year, then your paradigm is $5 million. And if you've hit a ceiling, then you got to break some paradigms. You got to expose yourself to people who have done more, who have done more, and your mind would completely shift. So that's the whole background of how paradigms are formed and how you can break it. So how do you actually break this? First step is to identify it. If you don't have a result in a certain area, you should, start writing down what do you think about that subject. For example, if you don't have results around money, you should write down, things that were told to you by the authority figures, by your elder brother, elder sister, mother, father, relatives, school, neighborhood, within the neighborhood, the successful families, right? People are listening to those families. Those have a lot of authority. Your government and nation, right? What's the average salary in your region, right? In your nation. That could have a very powerful effect on your mind that, if you have a paradigm about yourself that you're average, you would be like, okay, this is the salary I deserve. Anything more than that, it's a wishful thinking, right? So we have these deeply programmed belief systems that come from these channels, and I'm not going to go into why these exist, because there is a whole reason why these narratives are propagated. And I think it's to reduce competition. Personally, that's and turn human beings into employees and wage slaves so that they keep working and the rich get richer. That's my theory, but it's just a theory. I don't have any evidence to back it, but it makes complete sense to me. So that's how paradigms and narratives are formed, and it's a mass hypnosis, and consensus and authority gives it more power. And if you believe it, it's going to be real for you. So that's the video on decoding your paradigm. So here is something I did to kind of even discover what the paradigm is, because this is kind of at the back of our heads. This is not something that's actively we are aware of. It's something that we look at. For example, there is a girl that in my school, I used to look at her and I was like, she's just so beautiful. She's out of my league, right? And I believed that for a long period of time until recently, where I just talked to her and I was like, she's just a normal girl. Because I had been with much attractive girls than her. So suddenly, in contrast, she looks completely different. And it kind of messes with your head that it's the same girl, everything is the same, but you have changed and your paradigm has changed and the girl starts looking different. I'm sure you have had this experience, maybe with a car, with a phone, with a girl. You thought this girl is extraordinarily beautiful. And then you go to France or Sweden and then you come back and you're like, you're a peasant, I'm just kidding. I'm just, So that's the, topic of paradigm. So if you want to fully identify the paradigm, here is what I would do. I would make a list of all the environments I've been in and who had authority in those environments. So in family, who had the authority? Maybe a father figure, brother, mother. In school, in your friend circle. And what did these people say about money? Forget about what you think. You could write that down also, but what you think comes from the environment, right? So if you look at the environment, if you just start interviewing in the environment, you would find out what was the paradigm of that environment, and most likely you have completely absorbed that and indoctrinated into that. So this is what I did. I contacted my family and I did an interview process where I asked each member of the family, what do you think about money? Or what was the family's beliefs around money? And I started to write it down, and everything made sense. All the insecurities that I had inherited. All the desires I had inherited. All the views I had inherited. And I was walking with all of this baggage, trying to execute steps of an extraordinary business model, and completely being thrown off because it's something that I had never heard about. If it's something that my entire environment hasn't heard about, and I'm dealing with something that is extremely powerful and I didn't hear about it. And that's why I read a lot of books. I read Donald Trump's book to kind of alter my paradigm. And this thing evolved, and now I'm speaking to you and I feel quite comfortable in those things that I wasn't comfortable with. So that's the video on how to unlock the paradigm. Tell me in the comment section, what do you think, and what were some of the things that were told to you about money? Just like what I said, you need to get good grades, good college, good job, just like that, and how much money you would make. So another thing they would do is set packages, right? Package. What's your package? It's $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. So another thing was the packages, right? So these are all paradigms. It's all a story. It's all a made up nonsense. People have made so much more money. They didn't go to college. They didn't have education. People have done it, throughout the history. And even in today's time, especially in today's time, it's being done as we speak. So write it down. Let me know in the comment section, what is your paradigm around money? I'll talk to you soon.